COVID. Screw you, COVID. Rockin' and rolling, Sir Ryan Isaac. Another week gone by that feels like a day, young man.
Someone I just saw on Twitter, someone says now thanks to COVID, we have three days in a week. It's yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Like those are the only 3 days.
I was looking at like every time I've done quite a few transmissions today, and I feel like my eyes are getting like slower,
Yeah,
a little bit closed.
I'm feeling it. Everyone's.
I'm fairly high energy for almost 6 p.m. here Mountain States time, and living the dream with a lot of good news for our friends in the dental community. Don't we have a lot of good news? We have a lot of great.
There's always a silver lining. Yes.
So today, let's spend a few minutes talking about the biggest news of the day, which is everybody got to get going on your loan applications.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Just so, like that.
The CARES Act has now allowed for a new payroll protection program to be issued through the SBA 7A express loan provisions, which means that you can go to your local bank, apply through a relatively fast 7A process. And I was just informed by someone in fairly well-informed SBA employee that this may actually be that we could see funds rolling out within the next few weeks on this payroll protection program.
Cool.
Which would really help. If that does happen, okay, then a lot of people are at this crux of a decision right now, especially a lot of practices that may not have closed down quite as soon as others. They're still trying to decide on staffing and whether they really should lay off, furlough, or just continue to retain employees through this period of right now until the point which the SBA funding through the payroll protection program comes through. So I think we're going to give you guys a couple of tips. If you go to down below, you'll see here dentisadvisors.com/COVID. We've written a resources and action plan page that we think helps summarize the short-term actions that you need to take. Action number 1 is you've got to really decide between now and April 1st whether you're going to follow through on laying off or retaining people. You need to make that decision, and we encourage you to make that based on a documented process that is not subjective. And you would want to consult with either an HR consulting firm or an attorney just to show and help yourself really establish the policy that you're going to use to document which people really fit into your criteria that you're using for this decision. I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just saying that there is like this is a big decision if you're choosing to lay people off at this stage, because we may be could be as soon as 2 to 3 weeks away from payroll relief. This payroll protection program does reimburse doctors for up to 2.5 times their monthly payroll fixed costs that are associated with payroll and operating expenses like rent and mortgage expense and other business debts and insurance premiums. And so for most people, if you have an average payroll of $30,000 to $50,000 per month, you could see yourself getting a loan from $100,000 to $125,000. And as long as your expenses that you are incurring for that loan are similar, the staffing headcount is the same during the time you apply for the loan as it was prior to laying people off. If you've already laid people off, then it's my understanding that will still apply, that you'll be able to get the loan and rehire people and get reimbursed for the payroll that you had on your books, as long as you bring everyone back on your books. I also want to just highlight that for a lot of you, there may not be a downside in moving forward with the general consensus up to this point was move forward with layoffs and then go ahead and hire people back at some point once your business reopens. And that way you're not stuck with staff for 2 more months while there isn't any relief. I still think that's probably the prevailing wisdom, because even if money can be dispersed over the next 2 weeks, your practice might not be open for a month or a month and a half. It might not be open might be open in 2 weeks. It might be open in 3 weeks. We don't really know. So there are a lot of people still moving forward with terminating or reducing the hours of their staff. Their staff is applying for unemployment. And because this new CARES Act has an increased amount of unemployment reimbursement, going from the minimum wage we used to have to where it's going to be close to $1,000 a week, if they were making that much money or up to that amount, depending on what their income was, there's a pretty substantial unemployment benefit from this CARES Act as well. So a lot of people are saying for the dental industry specifically, it probably makes sense to lay staff off and then rehire them at the point where your practice is opening, and you can apply for the disaster recovery relief or the PPP program. They call it the Paycheck Protection Program. You can apply for that at any time between now and June 30th. And you have to use the money within 8 weeks of finalizing your loan application in order to be reimbursed for those expenses. And again, you'll only be approved for 2.5 times your monthly payroll. It is an average over the last 12 months of overhead is how they're using that to calculate.
Do we have confirmation? Early reports said that that would also include doctors' payroll in the payroll number.
It will include doctors' payroll, but it will be capped at $100,000 per person, and there will not be an equivalent to their prior payroll. Yeah, so the maximum that any one person can be paid is $100,000, but it doesn't include doctor payroll. It doesn't include contractors, and it doesn't include associates who are not employed as W-2.
Okay.
That's my understanding. Again, I'm not an HR expert here, but doing my best to try to keep up with the daily battle here.
What day is it? Which day are we in that we're
That's step one. Make your action plan for team. Get it done by April 1st. You got to decide if you're going to take the risk of keeping everybody on and going through until you get your PPP program reimbursement. There is a second loan you can apply for through the EIDL program. It's the Emergency Disaster Relief Program. It's an existing SBA law.
That's the one people were talking about before, the disaster relief, the SBA.
Yes, been around for a while. $2 million worth of funding. It looks though most likely the PPP program will be much better for dentists.
Yeah.
And the EIDL program has a $10,000 grant that you can be given that looks to be delivered by the SBA within 3 days, and it does not conflict with the PPP program. So talk to your local SBA banker, find out if you should apply for both, and move forward with, you can move forward with both loan applications, but it is my understanding that you cannot, you can only take one of the two programs, and it's the PPP program that looks to be the more advantageous.
So apply for both, but you can only accept one.
I think they say you can apply for both, but it's unlikely that the EIDL program will result in more of a better loan than the PPP program.
Yeah. Okay.
But this is an area I would just say, like right now, I've seen 3 newsletters in the last hour confirming that you can apply for both, but all the newsletters that I have read from HR firms or accounting firms have said that the local banker will have more information about this on Monday, early next week.
Okay. Do you want to explain anything about that April 1st deadline? I think people do that and they don't know what that's supposed to mean.
Well, the new CARES Act and the FMLA rules that integrate with the CARES Act, if you wait until after the April 1st deadline, then you will be unable to, you'll be adopting essentially the new legislation that was just passed around sick leave and FMLA integration. So you have to make a decision on essentially the choice is if you wait until after April 1st, you're not going to be in a position where laying people off will have the same benefit as it does prior to that date.
Okay.
So I would suggest that if you go to dentistadvisors.com/COVID, you'll see a 3-step action plan. And in that first bullet where you have to make these employee decisions, you're going to see several HR websites that are being updated by the minute right now. So Cedar Health, CEDR Health, and hrforhealth.com. Both of those have fairly robust resources that are being updated by the minute. Both of their CEOs have given expert opinions on this. And I would just suggest that people read this and listen to it over the weekend. That's on our dentisadvisor.com/COVID site. And then get to the point where you are able to make a decision on which employees that you want to keep on, which ones you need to let go of, if that makes sense to you, and document the policy that you've used to kind of determine the need that when you let go of an employee, it needs to be based on certain criteria like seniority or function in the business, and not based on any economic disadvantage that it would be to you to have someone on the books that then can apply for additional benefits through the new CARES Act provisions that protect a lot of people from losing their jobs due to having to parent children at home, or having to leave work to be able to support a family that is now, and kids that aren't in school. So there's a bunch of rules that apply after April 1st. And it's just important that you document the policy that you've used to kind of differentiate between the types of people that you've parted ways with.
Okay. You were on step 2?
Step 2 was get going on all the financing options, which we talked about, the PPP program and the EIDL program. And I would encourage people to apply for home equity lines of credit. If you don't have one on your residence, apply for that as well. When you're going through the underwriting process, you might as well, you're doing all this lending, you might as well get that home equity line approved. And then you can also apply for a business line of credit as well. You don't have to use these resources, but it's nice to have them available. We've talked about that in previous podcasts. I would move forward in addition to applying for the PPP program and the EIDL program for that $10,000 grant at a minimum, which talk to your SBA loan officer at your local bank and then determine, what path makes sense to apply for. Probably by Monday, it'll be fairly clear, Monday or Tuesday of next week. And then also take care of those applications to home equity lines. Just leave them open and leave a business line of credit open. You might as well. And I just view this as protection in case the PPP funding doesn't happen for a few weeks, maybe a month. I mean, who knows? They're saying it'll be quickly, but it's the SBA and it's a 7A program, and we'll have to see how fast they release those funds. I think that's another reason why people are struggling to keep people on payroll. So I might not be open for another 6 weeks, and if I don't get the money, then what do I have people do? I can't really employ everybody. And so, 70, I'm just telling you, the vast majority of dentists have already made this decision to lay off their staff, over the last week or more. And so I just think that most people who haven't done it at this point they're just uninformed a little bit about the consequences of all of this. And they just don't know what to do. A lot of staff, though, is willing to move forward without being paid. They're not asking for compensation. And so I don't know, there's some morale and some cultural considerations, I think, too, when you're laying people off, and you'll just have to make that call on your own, based on the risks that you want to take between now over the next, 6 weeks of potentially not getting that the payroll protection funding.
Okay. Step 3.
Step 3 is you need to have an action plan of a cash flow plan with your financial advisor for the next 30 to 60 days. As the stock market continues to be volatile over the next month to 2 months, as COVID cases continue to rise, you want to make sure that you have enough liquidity in your personal and practice checking accounts for a 30-day plan. And if you do have enough for a 30-day plan, look at the 60-day plan. And if that 60-day plan is going to involve you having to liquidate some securities from some of your investment accounts, you're probably going to want to do that now as opposed to
waiting to see
30 days, because there's no guarantee that waiting, anytime you have a time horizon that's that short, I need money in 30 days, you need to be in touch with your financial advisor to make sure that you're liquidating the right amount of portfolio proceeds
at the right time.
Be able to give yourself the best chance at having that money exit at the right time and at the lowest amount of tax consequence to you. And there's plenty of options to get money out of an after-tax account if you're a client of Dennis Advisors, there's, we have a lot of options, and we'll do an analysis on the portfolio and make sure that we're selecting the right positions to provide you that relief that you need.
Yeah, and what you're saying too is like protecting your ability to just pay your bills and keep food on your table is more important than trying to like time, like, because that's the temptation, right? People are like, well, I might need the money, but not for a couple months, so I want to see if it goes higher before I take money out. And it's kind of like, well, first priority, make sure you're covered before you're worrying about like when to pull it out to make a little bit back.
Exactly. Yep. And I think it's a lot to take in, but I think it's a lot of, that's a good summary of
website again, DennisAdvisors.com/COVID.
Yeah. COVID. And go there, check out the action plan that we've got, watch the videos, click on the links. Right now, I think the URL, it says COVID-19-resources on the video that we're watching right now, but I think /COVID will also work.
Take you right there. Yeah.
Just go to
we can post the links here below the video too.
Yeah.
And in the group.
If you're having trouble getting to the link at all, please just comment below on this video and we'll make sure and get it to everybody.
Okay. If you have any more questions and need some help with anything, just call us, 833-DDS plan, go to the website, just get on our calendar, or just go in the Facebook group, post a question. Are you away from your computer at all, night or weekend at this point? I'm not. So
we're here for you.
DM us on social media, whatever. We'll help however we can. So anything else, Reese? Is that good?
No, I just want to tell everybody that this is a good time. This is the best weekend probably we've had going into the weekend for weeks. And I just want to encourage everybody to take a deep breath, try to enjoy a couple of days from what's been a really crazy week, and try to just know that you've got a lot of options ahead of you next week for that are coming your way, resources and help. It's been amazing to see how resilient everyone's been and how everyone's kind of banded together to make sure that we help people get through this time. And anyway, just enjoy your weekend and try to know that next week is the train is moving towards getting this ship rolling again.
Yeah. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks, Reese. Appreciate it. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.